In the first part of chapter 7, you learned about imperatives and infinitives, how to order people around, and then how to use an infinitive, the to-do bit. Now we need to think about participles, probably the most useful bit of the Greek verb. First of all, I want to think about what is a participle. It's glossed as a verbal adjective. This means it has tense, it is a mood, and it has a voice, and it's also going to have a number. As an adjective, it's got case, gender, number. So that number category is actually really part of the adjective ending. So participles have very copious endings because they are accounting for it having verbal aspects and adjective aspects. You kind of get the meaning of the word from the verb bit and the use bit from the adjective ending. If you want to look at an English equivalent, it's the difference between lifting and having lifted. Those are the participles in English that we use an awful lot. Greek participles really matter. Greek does an awful lot with its participles, so getting a grip on them is really important. They are not, however, difficult. The endings are the form of endings that you haven't yet met and won't meet until later on in the book. So at this point, Duff is only introducing you to a basic set. You've got the masculine nominative ones. That's all you've got to think about. You've still got a difference between present and aorist. It's still an aspect difference. Difference is something being ongoing and continuous or repeated versus being something simple or default. But you've got two. So the present is your untying one. Your aorist would be your having untied one. The present participle ends in luon in the present singular and luontes in the present plural. Aorist singular still has a sigma in it. And then lusas, lusantes. These are a different set of endings. They will become clear later in the book. So for now, you just need to know these four words. Luon and luontes, untying. Lusas and lusantes, having untied. That's the basic form. Thinking about meaning is the next important thing to do. And you've got a couple of ways of using them. Think about the sentence, I carry a bag, I go shopping. You could rephrase that as I go shopping carrying a bag. Carrying is now an adjective describing me. Carrying a bag isn't a phrase in its own right. It's not a sentence in its own right. There is no main verb there. I go shopping is your sentence. Carrying a bag is an adjectival phrase describing me. So one of the useful things about participles is they can extend phrases by giving you descriptions of members of them. Carrying describes me as an adjective. You could say I, the person dressed in purple, go shopping. I carrying a bag, the carrying then has an object as well. So this is what Duff means by his slightly bizarre diagram on page 86. He's asking you to notice that you can, in essence, put two phrases together using a participle to describe one part and adding in an object. If that's not entirely clear, because I'm not sure it is here and it certainly isn't in the book, then it's something we can talk about, but it's something you'll get used to seeing when you read things. It'll make more sense just by habit. In other cases, it's possibly more clear. You could rephrase I see a man, the man eats chocolate as I see a man eating chocolate. Or you could phrase it as I see a man who is eating chocolate. So the participle eating has condensed down a new phrase, but is also the same as a relative clause might do in other circumstances. So you may find you want to translate participles as relative clauses. This will make more sense when we look at some examples. But if you find yourself wanting to put who is in front of a participle in English, then that's going to be absolutely fine. The last use is a bit more straightforward, and this is its use as noun. Take a verb like luo. Actually, don't take a verb like luo. It's pretty useless in this case because it doesn't make much sense. But take a verb like pisteuo. Pisteuo, I believe. Pisteuon, believing. Ho pisteuon, the believer. Akousin, they hear or listen. Akouontes, listening. Hoi akouontes, the listeners. In English, you use something like to make an agent out of a verb, the person who does it. In Greek, you do this by putting an article in front of the participle, and you then get the person who's doing the verb. And you could do that with any verb. I couldn't say the washer-upperer in English. That would just sound crap. That would just sound very silly. You can say that in Greek by putting the article in front of any verb you want and making the person who does it. I've chosen examples here that work well with that. If you find examples that don't work so well, you may have to use a longer phrase, but it's a really useful thing that Greek does, and you'll get used to translating these again and again and again. It's something you see all the time. So, you covered the indicative already, and in this chapter you've thought about imperatives, infinitives, and participles. That's increased your access to the Greek verb system quite dramatically. Participles are really important, really common, and you will get really used to seeing them. But for the moment, that's the isolated theory. Now let's start reading some passages and hopefully it'll all sink in.